This is the 41 lecture of the Semantic SEO course. In this lecture, we will look at another brief and try to understand how we continue to structure the macro and the micro context for the macro and the micro semantics. In the last lecture, we will talk about the format selection for increasing the overall relevance, especially for the passage ranking algorithms. So in this lecture, when we look at the specific content brief, again we have three columns. One is from Healthline and one is from the government website and another one for the just internal links. We have three columns. One is again we have the government from the government website, and this is from the Healthline, and the macro context that we have chosen is drinking too much water and its effect or its health effects at the same time. If you look to these two things, it seem like the similar. Again we have the drink and water, and here we have drinking water. The thing is that when we think about the drinking water, there are the two possible interpretation of that. One is predicate, that is drinking water, and another one is drinking water, that means the type of water. So to be able to relevant to the specific context or contexts, we need to process these predicates and these specific qualifier in every way, and we will need to replace or we want to use these things as a substitute context to each other. In the previous content brief, we define the drinking water as a process and also the type of water. That's why from time to time we have focused on the timing, like sleep, dinner, morning, like that, and also the amount of water, and at the same time the luxury drinking waters to connect our source one more time. And at the same time we cover this specific question, luxury drinking waters, which is connect to our source context, and we do it as much as possible. Then we focus on the dehydration, which is the antonym of drinking water, and then we talk about the symptoms of drinking water, which is the antonym of this specific question of dehydration. Drinking too much water is overhydration and this is dehydration. So these are antonyms to each other. In that specific brief, if you go for this separate article after publish, you go back and connect the internal link on this article to that specific separate created article. But in our case, we publish frequently 20 plus article. We did not have that specific headache because we have the time to fix all the context and change their places etc. And when we look to this column, again we have this from the Healthline, which is the source we want to classify to each other. And again we have government website. During the COVID process or the situation, especially the government website, they started to rank higher. We call this situation as the search engine promotion, and any website that closes or associated or linked with the government sources, it was a clear signal for the authority. And the misinformation during the COVID, it was so served, especially many news website lost their good amount of rankings. Koray also published these things in the past. You can check this slide to know more about it. Now when we look at here, when we search for drinking too much water, it comes us to the water intoxication. That's why we put this question as a title, because it directly appears inside the queries. And other thing here, this is slightly the modified version of this specific brief, because in this specific brief we talk about the benefits of drinking water, but here this is interpreted the harms of drinking water. So this is the antonym situation. If you remember the diagrams, you have the clear understanding here. In a queries, when we see this specific term, we see the attribute that is symptoms. It is directly appear in a queries, and we created the main question here and we cover these specific symptoms. So in the next lecture, we will look at our contextual vector and especially the contextual bridge that will be important because as you see here we have the incremental order list, and this does not from this specific area, but here in the previous brief it is start from this specific area, and we have the number in a title, but in that specific case we did not have. First we have the macro context, and then we have some definitional part, then we give the incremental order list. See you in the next lecture.